Hello, 6th graders. We are on to lesson 2, which is all about truth and equations. So our learning goal today is to use equations to represent stories and see what it means to solve equations. You need this paper and a pencil. You may want to have a calculator too. It would be fine to have one that you can pull up on your iPad. So here we go. Lesson 2, Truth and Equations. Section 2.1, it says 3 letters. The equation a plus b equals c could be true or false. Let me highlight those. True or false. A. If a is 3, b is 4, and c is 5, is the equation true or false? So I'm going to rewrite a plus b plus c. Let's put it in blue. A plus b equals c. And then it says a is 3, so I'm going to erase my a and write 3. It says b is 4, so I'm going to erase my b and write 4. And it says c is 5, so I'm going to erase my c and write 5. Need my red here. 5. Is this statement true or false? Does 3 plus 4 have a value of 5? And we would say no. That's false. Please copy this onto your paper. B. Find new values of a, b, and c that make the equation true. So let's rewrite a plus b equals c. And let's then change each value so that it's true. Let's make a equal 2. B, so I'm going to write that down. A equals 2. Then head back to b. Change b. B equals 4. B equals 4. And c will change. Well, if I want it to be true, now I have to say, well, 2 plus 4 has a value of 6. So we'll write that. C equals 6. You could pick lots of different numbers, but if a equals 2, b equals 4, and c equals 6, then a plus b equals c. All right, last one, C. Find a, b, and c that make the equation false. Write it one more time. A plus b equals c. So now I don't want it to be true. So we'll say a equals 5. Just randomly kind of picking this. A equals 5. B equals 3. B equals 3. Now if I want this to be false, I know 5 plus 3 equals 8. So for C, I'm going to change it to any number that's not 8, like 10. C equals 10. This is a false statement because 5 plus 3 does not have a value of 10. So what does it mean when an equation contains a letter? And what do we call these letters? A letter stands in for an unknown number, something that we don't know right now, right? A question. We don't know it right now, and we might be asked to solve it, or they might tell us what that unknown number is. And we call these letters variables. And the reason why we call it a variable has to do with the word variety. If we have a variety, that means we have many different things. Sometimes a could equal 2, but in the next problem, a could equal 4. Or in the problem after that, a could equal 10. Because a doesn't always equal the same number forever, we call it a variable. It can mean a variety of different numbers. So let's go back into this. What makes an equation true? If the expressions on each side have the same value, the equation is true. So let's look a little more at that. Here's a pretty simple one. 2 plus 3 equals 5. On the left side, I have 2 and 3. If I add 1, 2 tallies with 1, 2, 3 tallies, I would have the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tallies. That's one way that we've seen equations. Another way that you might not be as familiar with is this way. So this looks really complicated, but if we just look at each side of the equal sign, it's not too bad. This says 8 subtract 2, that's 6. And on the other side, 5 plus 1, that's 6. Each one of these is called an expression. On the left is 6, on the right is 6. So these equations are true. So what makes an equation false? If the expression on each side have different values, then the equation is false. A really simple one, 5 plus 5 equals 9. you know that 5 plus 5 is 10, and 10 does not equal 9. All right, a more complex example. On the left side, 4 plus 2 is 6, and on the right side, 3 plus 1 is 4, and you know that 6 does not equal 4. So those equations are false. So how can we determine whether an equation is true or false? You just saw me do this. The truth of an equation with variables depends on the values of the variables, right? It might be true if a equals 2, but it might be false if a equals 4, right? So it kind of depends on what they tell us the letters equal. Additionally, you need to evaluate both sides and check whether the values on each side of the equation are equal. Here, we said that 6 does not equal 4. Evaluate just means solve, do the math. 4 plus 2 equals 6, that's evaluating, right? 8 minus 2 was 6, and 5 plus 1 was 6. We evaluated both sides. All right, and then the last part, let's go back. If they are the same on each side of the equals, then the equation is true. But if they're not, then the equation is false. Story time, section 2.2. We'll do a lot more true and false in some of our class cake warm-ups. Today, I'm going to give you 3 situations and 6 equations. The equations are found inside these boxes. We need to figure out which equation best represents each situation. If you get stuck, consider drawing a diagram. I put diagrams in for each problem because I think it really helps us understand what's going on. Instead of trying to go through each box and say, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? I'm going to go down to the first story and see if I can make a diagram, and then I'll go back and see if the equation matches it. We're going to do number 1 together, and then I'm going to let you try number 2 before I do my explanation. Here we go. After Elena ran 5 miles on Friday, she had run a total of 20 miles for the week. She ran X miles before Friday. Remember that X just means an unknown number. They're not telling us how many miles before Friday. Okay, so let's go back into this. One thing I noticed is that it says she had run a total of 20 miles for the week. And I remember in our lesson from yesterday that the total always goes at the bottom of the bracket. So here's my bracket for total. That's a total of 20 miles. All right, then we're going to go back to our other 2 sentences. It says Elena ran 5 miles on Friday, and it says she ran question mark miles before Friday. So if I want to do these in order, I would say first she ran the question mark. So I'm going to break off a piece and call this question mark. Right? That is this blue part here. She ran X miles before Friday. Then it says she ran 5 miles on Friday. So that means this other part must mean 5. Now, I would argue that the size of these isn't quite right. The question mark has to be way bigger than 5, so I'm going to move this over. Because question mark plus 5 has to equal 20. I know that this is a plus sentence because these are unequal sizes. So this is question mark or X plus 5 equals 20. That's this option right here. X plus 5 equals 20. You will finish number 2 and number 3 during your next station with Mrs. Toivola. So if you're still in the hallway and it's not time for your next station, please check your grades on schoology.spps.org to make sure you have finished every EdPuzzle.